Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Astartes Anonymous podcast, where today we've decided to hopefully, briefly, enlighten you on the wonders of an incredible yet lesser-known Titan Legio. A Titan Legio that technically never officially turned traitor. A Titan Legio that killed Custodes, Space Wolves, Dark Angels, other technically loyalist Titans, all whilst utilizing very heretical xenotech and harboring the loyalist elements of a traitor legion. And joining me for this endeavor is none other than the gaming storyteller, aka Alex, as well as our good friend Zarek. I'm your host Tom, and these are my co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Alex. Nice to be here. I'm excited. This is one of those subjects that this is right up my alley. Give me some archaeotech, give me some Xenos tech. This is my shit.
Hey, I'm Zarek, and Tom's made me aware that my library is incomplete. I need to fill it.
I think that's the crazy thing about 40k, though, isn't it? Because even you and Aragon and Vivarus, the three of you are like the biggest fucking nerds I know. And then every now and then I'll ping one of you a message, say, hey, can you tell me about this? And it's like, what the fuck is this? This is the first I'm hearing of insert thing. I've never heard of insert thing before.
That's scary.
There's always more. There's always more. But today we're going to discuss something that I love. We're going to discuss my favorite Titan Legio. A Titan Legio that literally nobody talks about, no one knows about. It's certainly not one of the big ones. In fact, they're a very small Titan Legio. But before we get to that, shall we have a look at our models of the week?
Hell yeah.
Let's.
So, our first model of the week was chosen by Zarek, and this is from a user in our Discord called Ed.
Yeah, so this is a user. I've picked out their models before. They had some very interesting hair elements that they added to one of their previous models.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And this time around, they've gone for, I'm guessing this, I don't know if this is they're called marshals in the Black Templars, aren't they? I don't know if this is a marshal, or if it's just a regular Terminator, but I love this real Hessian tabard, and the way that the Maltese cross has been painted in a much more elongated way.
Yeah,
it just has such a brilliantly grimdark vibe to it. I love how sort of muted colors going on here. Yeah. Just the detail, it feels so well textured.
No, it's lovely. And I think as well, I'll mention this here and now, the way Ed has photographed this model is intentionally with a dark, warm light, really emphasizes that, as a modeler, as a kit basher, and as an artist, he knows exactly the vibe he's going for with this model. It's why this model looks so good. Even the little touch, the tiniest pop of color coming from the lights on the HUD of the Terminator armor, and the tiny pop of hazard stripe yellow on the magazine of all places for the Stormbolter. It looks incredible.
I'm a really big fan of this model because I love it when people start using other materials than just plastic and green stuff in their builds. So using some actual physical cloth in this, and the little watch parts that you can buy per 50 grams in those little tins.
Yeah,
you can see it on a little skull in the middle. You can see it on on the tabard itself. It looks awesome.
It's
really
it's very Badab era / War for the False Primarch kind of model. You know what I mean? It's got that unrelenting gothicness to it as a miniature, not as a thing that exists within the setting, but as a miniature. And that's such a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. So excellent job there, Ed. Thank you very much for that. Looking forward to showing more of your stuff off as you continue to make them. That's bloody brilliant. Right. Shall we have a look at the one Alex has selected?
Yeah.
So this is a Necron by a user in our Discord known as Doms. And Doms is actually, just a little shout out, Doms is one of our patrons. This is a lovely, lovely Necron. Alex, would you like to tell us why you've picked this one?
Well, I think everybody can instantly see that blade on that Necron is absolutely beautiful. The non-metallic metal edge with a more muted mid-panel itself, with some really nice OSL, some really nice turquoise OSL going between it. It's such a striking scheme to just have a dark black together with a beige, muted tone, and then together with some a pop in color blue. It's such a pretty mini. I also really want to shout out the little crow on the base. I absolutely love that. That base in itself is a masterpiece. I love it when people actually spend the time to build a little setting for their base.
Yeah, well, he's very carefully almost taken, and not in a bad way, I don't mean this in a bad way, but almost taken the sci-fi out of the Necron. Between the color scheme, how the color scheme is presented, and the detail in the graveyard that is his base, the crow, the rocks, the gravestone, it's very classic sort of necromancer shenanigans, but with that Necron twist. It's very, very lovely.
It's like a really fun sci-fi take on the Night Haunt aesthetic of it all.
Oh, yeah. It just feels like such a great recontextualization of what Necrons are. And I wish we'd see more of this, like really pushing the feeling of them being a necrotic species.
Yeah.
Because they are. They're undead, but that so often gets overlooked, which feels insane when they're all skull-faced.
I remember talking about this in the Patron questions section of one of the previous episodes about how one of the faction itches that doesn't exist for me in 40k is a proper necromancer style force. And obviously we can talk about Nurgle forces, various Nurgle things, and we can talk about the Necrons, but neither of them really scratch that itch. But I have a funny feeling that if Necrons at face value were presented more like this from the get-go, that itch would have been scratched. Now, I'm not saying I dislike Necrons. I'm not saying they should be done like this. But for me personally, this is very much how I would want to see them. I think this is great. Excellent job, Doms. Right, shall we look at the last one?
Hell
Absolutely.
yeah.
So this model of the week was picked by me. And this model is actually a little bit of nepotism, no lie. This model was made by a good friend of mine at Zarek's called Wolfram. And Wolfram has been a moderator in our Discord for a couple of years. I've known Wolf for 4 or 5 years now. Really exceptional painter. Used to do commission model painting. I don't know if he still does, but he is an astounding kit basher and an astounding painter. And it's really just whenever he posts something, it's always a treat. Anyways, this is. I don't know an awful lot about this faction that's being presented here from a homebrew lore standpoint, so I'm not going to try. We're just going to look at the model at face value. This is a homebrewed Space Marine where he's actually taken the Mark 6 helmet, has very carefully pulled the beaky off and put it to the side, as if the man within the helmet has sort of taken his mask off and shown his face beneath. The green stuff, the kit bashing, the artistry, the skill to go into making a model like this must be absolutely immense. He's done such a great job.
I adore it. This feels exactly like taking a first edition Space Marine concept and doing it in all the finery of the pristineness that new minis give you. Like the way that his little finger rests over his handle on the pistol as he's about to draw it. It's just such a tiny detail, and it's so perfectly done. The way his fingers part just the right amount to hold the low stick, not a cigarette.
Not a cigarette. No.
Not a cigarette. TM.
It's incredible.
Yeah, this piece is absolutely beautiful. Like Zarek said, it really gives me those first edition vibes of the bad cop
or taking drugs, because that was that is such a very first edition thing for a Space Marine to do. Yeah,
like bad cop vibes to it all, like being a bit of an asshole. He's got his bare arms, he's buff as shit, he's lighting a cigarette. And all the OSL on this model, like the object source lighting from like both the cigarette, the glow behind him.
Well, if we take a look at if we swap the picture on the screen now to a view of him from behind instead of in front, you can just see the glow of this little light source climbing up his back as well. And this is very symptomatic of Wolfram whenever he does a model. He leaves no stone unturned when it comes to detail.
I'm a massive fan of that. It looks beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exceptional job.
Wolfram's minis have always been so alluring to me. Genuinely, the quality of his minis are the entire reason that I actually met Tom in the first place.
Yes.
That's the entire thing.
Yeah.
If it weren't for Wolfram doing these amazing minis, I wouldn't be here. It's incredible.
I've just noticed a small detail. We've been talking about this model like it's a Mark 7 miniature. I've just noticed its torso is Mark 2.
Yes, it is.
Oh
his
my
torso
god!
is one of the Mark II torsos you get in the Horus Heresy tanks. He's got a Chaos Space Marine right shoulder, and his left shoulder is Deathwatch. I have a sneaking suspicion this is from an Ordo militant faction that he's homebrewing right now. I'll have to ask him. I'll have to ask him and get some answers, because it's one of those great models that, as a kit basher and an artist, it poses so many questions. You have to know more, And obviously, maximum kudos for doing an awesome kit bash with Firstborn parts. It just looks so seamless and so natural. I say Firstborn parts. He's got a Phobos backpack. Right. Shall we get talking about a very impressive Titan Legio?
Hell yeah. Let's
go.
So, in short, we are about to discuss none other than Legio Ziac. It's funny because this topic actually came about because of a little bit of a tirade Zarek and I went on as we discussed a while ago, that one cannot simply trust various Warhammer wikis, even the Lexicanum, which we endeavored to edit in a small way to make a page that to some could have read as misleading, you know. So hear me when I say that 40k YouTubers are great, and the wikis are a very, very helpful resource, but do not trust any information that you haven't sourced yourself.
Yep.
You know, the now fading Space Marine 2 wave has brought forth a metric ton of low effort 40k creators and AI crap channels that are just spewing shitloads of misinformation about the lore. So trust your own first-hand sources before trusting anything else. Okay.
Yep.
And to that end, the information of the story of Legio Ziac that you're about to hear is sourced from the Spirit of the Cogs short story, White Dwarf 478, the Horus Heresy First Edition Book 7 Inferno, Imperial Armor Volume 1, the Second Edition Imperial Guard book, and Imperial Armor Volume 11, The Doom of Mimira. Yeah. So, God, maybe that should happen more. Maybe people should actually quote their sources in the lore videos we see.
Yes.
You know? I mean, there's so many lore tubers I know who are great, who are amazing, who I love, but they don't quote their sources, and I feel like it's just such a tiny thing they could do to really
source. I made it up.
My friend told me at 3 a.m.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Do you know, we've actually done that. We've actually contributed to perpetuating.
Oh no.
No, we done those ages ago. Last time, I got one in mind in particular. We actually contributed to perpetuating some lore that was actually just word of mouth and not actually real lore. It was that it was the thing about Tyberos armor, Tyberos's Terminator plate needing to be refit with Dreadnought armor. Turns out it's not true.
Yeah, it's not there.
It doesn't exist. It's not real lore. Someone made it the fuck up, and it's just kind of flown since. So so check your sources. Don't trust it. If you see an AI channel, just fucking, don't trust it. Don't trust that shit. I mean, if it's an AI channel, just unsubscribe from that shit. It's not worth your time. God, the amount of stuff being stolen for AI channels right now. God, no, I don't want to get into it. We'll be here all day. So let's get back. Legio Ziac. So our story starts before the Horus Heresy, during the fires of the Great Crusade, as Legio Ziac, aka the Iron Vigil, born of the Forge World Ziac had, would become very friendly with a certain Space Marine Legion, the Legion known as the Thousand Suns.
Ooh.
And so what would happen is this camaraderie would come about during the Great Crusade solely out of sort of geographical convenience. It was the closest stationed Forge World to the Thousand Suns, and so it very quickly became a point of resupply for them. What would happen though during this time is that the Forge World Ziac had and their Titans, the Titans they're creating, would decide it would be in their best interest to work with the various psychic elements of the Thousand Suns to create these Titans. And so what we got was a very, very unique Titans. We got Titans. So actually, scratch that. Titans with a very unique element within them. An element that has basically been dubbed as Eldar Psycho-Reactive Iron Cores. Although I suspect we're just going to refer to them as Iron Cores for the rest of this, for the purpose of the podcast. And ostensibly, what these Titans were budget versions of the Ordo Sinister's Psi Titans. And sort of in this collaboration that the Ziac Hadians and Legio Ziac had with the Thousand Suns would create a very, very strong bond. A bond between the two that would actually outlast the Horus Heresy. A really, really wonderful sort of little thing would come about between these two, and it would, go on, and it would persist. But yeah, our story sort of begins with just out of a communion of convenience, really. Just leaning over to grab my tea.
Tom, the Eldar Psycho-Reactive Iron Cores, that just spells epic. Is that a joke about Epic 40k?
Eldar Psycho-Reactive Iron Cores. Oh my god.
epic.
Oh my god, you're right. They're epic titans. They're epic cores.
They're epic.
That's true.
Let's call them
That's
epics.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like
Holy shit. That's really funny. I like that. But essentially, when working together on this, there sort of came a point, and we don't know when this happened. Like with a lot of things in 40k, getting the dates of certain things is a bit of a shitter. At some point, again before the heresy, Ziac had, aka the Forge World that created Legio Ziac, actually created a sub-forge on Prospero to utilize Tizca's. And if you don't know what Tizca is the capital city of the Thousand Sons and the Prosperine people. They create a sub-forge to utilize Tizca's various psychic institutions to create unique titans. Now, it's worth mentioning just here real quick that just a little thing about Legio Ziac with the image in your mind's eye, that Legio Ziac favored Reaver-class titans over all others. Now, of course, they had their contingent of other classes of titan, but Legio Ziac was one of the smallest titan legios ever. Yeah, and whilst they excelled in this sort of weird experimental tech that we'll get into in a moment, they didn't really have the raw resource and output capabilities of other legios. So they predominantly produced Reaver-class titans to get the most bang for their buck, so to speak. If I go quiet, it's because I'm sipping my tea.
Did they have any Nemesis Warbringer titans, Tom?
Probably. Who knows? It's 40k.
Yeah,
Probably.
we do know that they went up to Warlord and probably any Warlord adjacents, and then that was it. They didn't go higher than that because the amount of resources needed for that are ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember reading about how Legio Mortis, at the height of their strength, had a couple hundred titans, most of which were warlords. Oh. And we'll talk about Legio Mortis in a minute because it's going to get relevant to this, and how Legio Ziac just paled in comparison to that. Probably less than 20 at full strength, which for a Titan Legio during the Great Crusade era and Horus Heresy era, as the peak of their power, is really not a lot. Anyway, so as we all know, Prospero kind of got fucked a little. The invasion of Prospero happened, and the Ziac forces stationed on Prospero knew it was coming the same way the Thousand Sons knew it was coming, and they made preparations to hold off whatever Titans the Censure fleet would send. It's strange because the Thousand Sons kind of accepted their fate, but also didn't. But even though these two forces were really, really, really close, this doesn't mean that Legio Ziac necessarily wanted to just sort of die to the Censure fleet.
Yeah, it was very much like Magnus's ego that led him to accepting it, like his sort of self-hatred. Until
he didn't accept it, which he also fucked up somehow.
So it goes out to you, Arthur.
Yeah, I can hear Arthur Bones screaming in the distance. And so, when the Censure fleet arrived, it consisted of a number of elements. Obviously, we know that the main chunk of the force was Leman Russ and his Space Wolves. We know that Constantine Valdor had arrived with a contingent of Sisters of Silence and Custodes. We know that there's actually a small contingent of Sons of Horus there as well to sow discord and whatever the fuck the Sons of Horus do on their days off. But more relevantly, for the purpose of this discussion, Legio Mortis was there. Would either of you two like to tell our lovely audience what was so special about Legio Mortis during this era?
Well, Legio Mortis on the basis was one of the first 3 legions ever to be produced from Mars. Yeah. So they are an OG. They have had all the experience so far, and they have been in just about every war. And besides, they were just about the largest legion by a large margin. And their amount of successes and the amount of training they all had was impeccable.
They were quite literally the biggest and greatest Titan Legio, if not the biggest and best, one of top 3, easy. So even by Titan standards, losing was not something they were really capable of, and this is why they were actually Horus Lupercal's favored Titan Legio. And another really, really important bit to note about Legio Mortis at this moment in time is they hadn't really turned traitor yet. Remember, this happened 6 months before the Horus Heresy officially began. So this coming David versus Goliath battle of Ziac versus Mortis, by the time it was over, spoilers, Mortis gets their fucking ass handed to them. This would have presumably absolutely devastated Legio Mortis's pride. Potentially a really big factor is, what caused them to turn traitor in the first place. But now you might be asking, well, if Legio Mortis was so big and was able to outnumber them so much, how was the smallest Titan Legio able to win? How were they able to defeat Legio Mortis and humiliate Legio Mortis? Well, obviously, utilizing their Xenotech iron cores. Legio's Astobiax's Reavers decimated Mortis's bigger Titans that came in bigger numbers because the iron cores were a very, very special device. It's not completely known exactly what they did that made them so special, but the general theory is that they worked a little bit like Wraithbone, making Titans an extension of their pilots. And if you know anything about normal Titan piloting, being a Princeps is a terribly perilous thing, taking dozens of people to man larger Titans, all working in synchronicity as best they can. And it's never a perfect science. Like the depiction in Hell's Reach.
Oh, yeah.
Is a very good one to see how it can be, even though there's obviously one person at the head of a Titan is still a dysfunctional thing. But Legio's Astobiax had no such problem. The iron cores basically created Titans with zero input lag, with the potential for other sort of preternatural abilities.
Yeah, well, some Titans, they're the spirit of the machine might yell at you in your grandpa's voice. These things were a little bit beyond that.
Yeah, so when it comes to the iron cores themselves, as they essentially were an addition to the normal Titans themselves, right? So, like, whenever you pilot, let's say, a Warlord Titan or a Reaver Titan, you are fighting a wild spirit. It's a gold machine fighting you back. You have to tame it. However, with the introduction of the iron cores, essentially your Titan came pre-tamed, as they had already been tamed from before, and with this Wraithbone, supposedly Wraithbone construction around it, probably not Xenotech, right? Absolute heresy. But with essentially these devices around there, the personalities and the souls of those that died would over time be put into these cores. And they would help you fight in battle. They would give you advice, but you could also essentially swap souls as you're sitting in there. Essentially, the best way I could describe it is the Avatar state from Aang the Last Airbender, where he looks back and sees 200 people sitting there, and he has all their experiences and all their essential might. Even though he might not be the strongest, he has their power, he has their understanding. So within no time, from the smallest legion kind of struggling against the largest legio, they suddenly were able to turn it around because they were able to move faster. They worked in synchronicity together because not only did they have the memories of, essentially all the tactics ever produced for this legion, they were all doing it at the same time without even really looking at each other. They just did it naturally because all this experience, all this knowledge came into one. It's so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's this really funny example because it's kind of Xenotech. It's kind of warp tech. It's kind of heretic stuff. It's kind of all of them folded into one whilst technically not being them at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, it's Wraithbone, but it's also sort of mimic Wraithbone. And if you know how Wraithbone works, just a quick sort of thing for anyone who's a little bit unsure. Wraithbone is an extremely strong material that can channel sort of psychic energy. It's a place where you can house soul stones. And this is how the Eldar store their consciousness or their consciousnesses, their multitudes of consciousness.
Yeah, their existence
to keep themselves from being sucked up by Slanesh when they bite it. And so the idea is that the iron cores have this uncanny ability to stow away the existence and the knowledge and the memories of every single pilot to ever pilot that Titan. And something Alex mentioned to me before we started recording, a very interesting little tidbit, is that you may be listening to this, you may be sat there saying, well, hold up, Titans do that anyway. The machine spirit does that. And that's true. To an extent, they are very similar. But the difference is that when a machine spirit does it, the machine spirit will distort, absorb, and overwrite the souls that have been brought into it. They'll break them down and eat them.
Yep.
And turn them into this twisted version of themselves. And even if that weren't true, even if they kept them stored pitch perfect, it doesn't exactly give that information back willingly to the pilot, because machine spirits are very fickle things. But the Iron Core's got around that issue. It's like the difference between running your computer on a 1060 versus a 4080. It was instant response times. So it's very, very special and very sort of unique, but it is ultimately xenotech, or a form of xenotech in a sort of a fancy way. But again, this is why it's actually very perfect as well that it was the Thousand Sons who had done this alongside Legio Ziac, because that was always Magnus's defining trait, this idea that he wanted to know more and he wanted to meddle with things that weren't meant to be meddled with, all with the best intentions, or at least he might have believed with the best of intentions. Maybe there's a question mark on that. But it's the same thing here, where Ziac had wanted to take what the Thousand Sons and the Prosperine people could offer them with their understanding of the warp and psychic powers and Eldar relics and such, and sort of merge that into their Legio, so that where they lost out on numbers, they made up for with quality. And I think that the simplest way to imagine it is in a versus sort of bout is to sort of imagine that every single second a Legio Ziac Titan is being piloted with an Iron Core, it is always being piloted by the best person possible every single second, if that makes sense. Like this idea that there isn't a single fraction of a second where the person piloting it isn't like the absolute perfect person to handle with that instant in time.
Yeah.
Always the most experience, always the most knowledge, always, and there is an element of, I think there's an element of preternatural abilities there as well, to be sort of looked at, this idea, because we know that Titans are capable of preternatural abilities on their own, even with their own machine spirits. Take the Nemesis class Titans, for example. The machine spirit of the Nemesis class Titan actually does have preternatural abilities. It's a Titan that have been known to ignore their princeps, to turn to face a giant wall, blockade, or cliffside, aim their guns at that cliffside, and be ready to fire. And the princeps just there like, what the hell are you doing? And then only seconds later, an enemy Titan will appear from beyond that cliff face, ready for the Nemesis Titan to shoot. So these machine spirits are capable of great preternatural things, and it's my belief as well that Legio Ziac would have had that turned up to 11 as well, with all the psychic stuff going through them,
Also because, of course, like a large part of the population that would become princeps would probably be from Prospero as well, with a lot of psychers there. And if they get put into the machines as said spirit stones, you can kind of just call on like some of those natural pieces of luck. Maybe you just have the luckiest pilot known to the galaxy that is in one of those, and in that moment he is needed.
Yeah, that's it. It's like, okay, the enemy has this particular attack pattern. This next bout of combat is going to last about 15 seconds. What do I do? And within a fraction of a moment, a fraction of a second, your consciousness has been replaced by someone who's had this engagement before and knows exactly how to handle it. And it's just this, it's just such an awesome way of saying that, you can outgun them, but you can never have more skill than them. And it's just such a wonderful little thing. And keep in mind, Legio Mortis, more numbers, bigger Titans. We're basically talking about probably as many warlords took on as many Reavers, and the Reavers won out of a combination of, just skill and 40k magic fuckery. But
I love it.
But moving on. Eventually Mortis were, getting blasted so hard that the Censure fleet, so again with, led by Lehman Russ and Constantine Valdor and presumably the Fleet Masters, the Censure fleet needed to unveil their secret weapon to finally put a stop to Legio Ziac and their subforge on Prospero. And they brought something with them very special. They brought just about the only thing that could have stopped them. And that was, they had brought 5 Warlord Sinister class Psi Titans of the Ordo Sinister, right? The psychic Titans of the Emperor's own creation were able to finish the job that Mortis couldn't. Zarek, would you like to explain to the audience what these are?
Yeah, these are unholy. Purely, absolutely unholy. These are Titans that are piloted by a psychic blank, and it's incredibly necessary because somewhere inside these Titans are any number of chained up Alpha class psychers who are spent essentially as fuel or ammunition in order to do obscene acts of sorcery. This could be to reverse time if you've got a Chronomancer there, just undo some horrible damage that you took.
Yep.
Perhaps a Technomancer can knit the armor of your Titan back together, or a Telekine could do something unholy with pulling the earth apart in front of you. Alpha class Psychers are insanely powerful. For reference, if you think about Inquisitor Eisenhorn, a character many of you have probably read about, he was certainly not Alpha class. I believe it stated he's like Beta Plus, I think.
So close, but not quite. Not quite.
So he was fairly potent, but not quite there. But he, at the height of his power, was able to break his mind into a Warhound Titan and murder the pilot in their seat. A Beta Plus Psyker can do that. A Beta Plus Psyker can kill a smaller Titan.
Yeah.
These are Warlord Titans equipped with multiple Alpha class Psychers as ammunition.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind.
This is the crazy thing as well. We were discussing this before the episode, but this battle between Mortis and Zestobiax would have fielded anywhere from 8 to 10 Reavers and Warlords, combined 8 to 10, not each. And Legio Mortis would have been wielding at least double that in terms of Warlords, probably Warlords and supporting things, maybe even more, maybe up to 25. I mean, these numbers are all speculation, but based on what we know of these legions, it's these. I don't think these are unrealistic numbers. And so we're talking how these 8 to 10 Titans were able to just rout and annihilate up to 20, maybe more Titans. And then bang, out of nowhere, 5 Warlords shows up, just 5 of them. And these 5 Sinister class Warlord Titans are able to annihilate these Iron Cord Reavers and Warlords that Zestobiax has been running. Just absolutely decimate them. And it's really fun because it's kind of a funny comparison that I like to think about with just so you can sort of understand power scaling, right? When you're thinking about space, and I fucking hate Space Marine power scaling, but it's really useful for this analogy, so I'm going to stick with it. I don't care if you are Marnius Calgar. I don't care if you are Tyberos the Red Wake. If your opponent is a Space Marine combat librarian, at least an epistolary, and there's 30 feet between you, the librarian is winning the fight. The librarian is killing you. There is no question he's going to tear you apart limb from limb without getting anywhere near you. He's going to look into the warp and he's going to say, explode. He's going to fully Dr. Manhattan your ass. And that's the difference. That's the difference between the Ordo Sinister and every other branch of Titans. It does not matter. It did not matter that like the Reavers were basically being piloted by the Avatar state. It didn't matter. The Ordo Sinister is that immensely powerful. But it's very cool because we know, a lot of people know the Ordo Sinister exists, right? We know that they're a thing that the Emperor has and that exists during the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy. But we have woefully few examples of them actually doing their job and doing things in a way that we can see and look at and go, oh, wow, that's that legion doing that thing.
Yeah.
But this is one lesser known yet great example of us having at least a good idea, maybe not a descriptive idea, but at least a good idea as to the kind of power they can muster. A place where like a whole contingent of Legio Mortis would fail, where only 5 of these would succeed. I just think that's a wonderful little thing, you know, and a really good point of power characterization for something that otherwise doesn't get any. Because one of the most eye-opening things I had when I started to get into Titan Legios as a part of 40k that I really liked and part of the Horus Heresy that I really liked was learning about the Ordo Sinister because of how unique a thing it is. But it's so esoteric. It's so esoteric, and this is the perfect foe for that, you know. But yeah, so as we all know, after Legio Mortis ate shit, we kind of know what happened Prospero after that.
Yeah.
The warp sort of started to open around the planet. Everything kind of went to hell. We saw the first Wolfen, even allegedly.
Well, they existed a bit before.
A space wolf sneezed in Uncia and blew his own throat out. That was a good scene. Yeah.
A couple of members of the Thousand Sons turned into actual spaghetti.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of them got stuck in a dimensional labyrinth for the next 10,000 years.
Magnus got emergency spinal surgery.
He had his
And
bro structure removed.
Yeah. And
his spine was so broken that he broke into several pieces as well.
Yep. And Aramon made the spiciest Space Marine cocaine known to man.
Yeah, they fought so hard, they had to reenact Nagash from Warhammer Fantasy with making pyramids float. It was pretty intense.
So even though Legio Mortis got shafted and Zastobiak's sub-forge on Prospero was destroyed, that was not the end for the Titan Legio. Legio Zastobiak's only had the sub-forge on Prospero. The true might of the Legio was actually still on Zhao Arkhad, and despite their devastation due to Zhao Arkhad's strong bond with the Thousand Sons, several Thousand Sons would actually take refuge on Zhao Arkhad. The Thousand Sons who were notably loyalists. Yeah, so I love talking about loyalist traitors, and this is one of those groups of loyalist traitors that no one knows about. We know about the loyalist Death Guard, right? We know about Nathaniel Garrow and co. We know about the loyalist World Eaters. We know about
Soltarvitz and the Emperor's Children. And good old Rillinor, everyone's favorite.
Yeah, and all the rest, right? But there's not really, like, the only loyalist Thousand Son that really sticks out to people is Revular Vida. And even though we don't have any named characters here, we know that there were several thousand Sons who actually took refuge on Zhao Arkhad, who were, as I mentioned, notably loyalists, who would not side with Horus, who were not necessarily present for Prospero or potentially escaped Prospero, but Thousand Sons who still believed in the Emperor's vision, but didn't really have any choice but to hide to survive, and remain there for ostensibly the rest of the heresy, sheltered by the tech adepts that they'd worked with for so long. And that's how strong the bond between Zhao Arkhad and the Thousand Sons was. That even though the Thousand Sons were declared traitors Imperium-wide, Zhao Arkhad were like, nope, come here. But it's also worth mentioning that during this time, Legio Zastobiak's and Zhao Arkhad would recluse themselves from the growing civil war. Because, I mean, why wouldn't you? You've just, had your fucking ass beat by the Emperor's personal Titan bodyguard. You basically just killed Space Wolves, Sisters of Silence, Custodes, and God knows what else. So it's like the best thing they can do at that moment is to just sort of go, well, we don't want any smoke. We don't really want any smoke.
They did the best YouTuber drama response, and that was just to not respond, not do anything. They just went offline.
But it says a lot, though, because we know that those Thousand Sons claim to be loyalist, and we know that Zhao Arkhad and Zastobiax didn't join the traitors, even though they could have. So it really says a lot about how they still believed in the vision of the Great Crusade, but things had just gone a bit awry, and for reasons they were like, okay, well, we're just going to sit it out. We're just going to see what happens. Like, the worst, most pessimistic outlook you could have is saying, well, they pulled a Switzerland, and we're just going to see who comes out on top. Which isn't great, but it's still, it's still better than the alternative. So it's really interesting, but it's not really known whether the traitors attempted to recruit Legio Zastobiax. But even if they tried, it's not unreasonable to think that there would be no recompense for declining, because I don't think it really matters who you are. One doesn't simply attack a forge world housing a Titan Legio.
Yeah,
it's not like, because it's the thing. Let's see your Horus's. Let's just somehow theoretically your Horus's entire fleet, and you're passing by the Titan, the fucking Legio Zastobiax and Zhao Arkhad. You're not going to go down there and go, hey guys, do you want to join us? And they turn around and say, no, you're not going to start that fight.
Yeah, well, what are they going to do? Send Mortis down there? They're going to give you those Vietnam stares. Like, they just see Prospero happen all over again.
Well, this is the thing. Yeah. If they just say, well, we're staying out of it, the worst thing that can happen, or the best thing that can happen, or worse, depending on how you're looking at it, is they waste ammunition trying to destroy them from orbit, of which they get into a battle they're ultimately still going to lose resources on. And if they go down to try and steal the Titans, they're going to lose more than they're going to gain. So it's like, they're kind of untouchable at this point. They're kind of untouchable. You can't really go to their turf at this point. It's not really safe, unless you're a fleet of stupid ass Dark Angels.
Hell yeah.
Which, in the final few years of the heresy, during the Dark Angels' early scouring of the traitor worlds, would find themselves on Zhao Arkhad hunting Thousand Sons. And initially it seemed like Zhao Arkhad were too worried to get involved. There wasn't an immediate response from the sort of tech adept side of things. But being ignored by the Imperials all this time, and it could be interpreted that the Dark Angels here for the Thousand Sons and not the Titans or Tech Priests. It could just be that, they'll just let it slide on by. However, after only a very short amount of time, a short amount of battling, did Legio Ziac rock up and just give a fat nuh-uh and got involved in the battle and very quickly annihilated swathes upon swathes of Dark Angels, basically saving the Loyalist Thousand Sons. So now, on top of their kill count, it's not just Custodes, Sisters, Space Wolves, Mortis, it's fucking Dark Angels as well have been added to the kill tally.
If it smells like a heretic and it acts like a heretic, you're telling me they are not heretic?
Now, here's the thing. Horus, amped up on chaos energy as he was still a canny commander.
Yeah.
The average Dark Angels captain, not so much.
No. But that's it. Can you imagine that? Like, this would have been just after, this would have been after Caliban. This would have been after Sanguinius basically TP'd back to Terra. So this would have been whilst the Ultramarines are just trying to beeline it for Terra, and the Dark Angels basically go, no, we're just going to fuck around over here and kill whatever we can find.
Actually, this would be before Caliban. This would be before Caliban.
Was Caliban after this?
Caliban was right after the Siege of Terra.
No, well,
I got that mixed up. See, don't trust YouTubers. Don't. We said at the start of the episode, don't trust YouTubers. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. We're all liars. But one of the things that's really interesting is because it kind of shows. I mean, obviously, I love lifting up Zistobiacs, right? But as much as I love lifting up Zistobiacs, I love putting down Horus Heresy era Dark Angels.
No, no,
I know.
Army.
Well, so do they.
Apparently so, yeah. But
I have a chaos Dark Angels Horus Heresy army. Honestly, you know what? Fuck the loyalists. You right.
Well, it's like the Dark Angels during the Heresy. I mean, this is a huge overarching statement. You're welcome to disagree. That's fine. That's okay. They're just dumb.
Yeah, they're
dumb.
Absolute boneheads, and that's what I love about them.
So, like any opportunity to see some random plucky underdog like Legio Zistobiacs and like I don't know, maybe 6,000 Thousand Sons actually dunk on an entire subfleet of Dark Angels.
Hell yeah!
Oh, that makes me really happy. That makes me really, really happy. And here's the fun thing as well. The fleet of Dark Angels basically after they got their ass handed to them and made their retreat, they basically made a blockade around Ziac had. I haven't got this in my notes. I read this earlier. I haven't got this in my notes. They made this blockade around Ziac had. And the idea is that they would wait for the lion to come and give them further orders on what to do. And the next we hear about Ziac had is several years later, and it's a whole different faction interacting with them. So, like, the odds are they told the lion, and even the lion went, no, fuck that. We don't want that smoke. Don't even bother. Just leave. It's not worth it. Just leave.
What's so funny to me is I'm imagining that most of the Dark Angels present were probably aware that Legio Zistobiacs pushed in the shit of the Space Wolves. That classic rivalry. They're thinking, nah, it's just the Space Wolves. Nah.
Oh, we've done the rangdang. We can do this. No problem.
Yeah, and it's important to remember they're on the same level. They're each other's rivals. They're each other's rivals because they're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
So don't forget that. Although modern 40k Dark Angels do seem mysterious, secretive, cool, they are just as glory hungry and like obsessive as the Space Wolves are.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's a funny little thing. It's such a funny little thing. And I like 40k Dark Angels. It's quite funny actually. I like 3rd and 4th edition Dark Angels, and I like the very most recent wave of Dark Angels, like 10th edition Dark Angels.
They are clean
since the Lion's return, because maybe I just like the Lion. But there's a whole chunk of Dark Angels in the middle there that I don't like very much, and then there's the Horus Heresy Dark Angels that I don't like very much. But there is that super old 3rd and 4th edition of Dark Angels from like 2000 and like pre-2010 that are just chef's kiss. They're so like, it's such a beautiful embodiment of the setting. I honestly think 4th edition Dark Angels are more 40k than 3rd edition Black Templars. I really mean that.
I can see it. I see it. The artwork in those books is so evocative. So many of those are just
so good.
Yeah.
Like while the classic cover art that John Blanche did of the Black Templars making their last stand that went on the cover of 3rd edition.
Yeah.
Their respective codices were not nearly as balanced. The Dark Angels have, I think, one of the cleanest books out of 3rd and 4th edition.
Absolutely. It's glorious, you know. But moving on back to Legio Zistobiacs. After the heresy ended and the real scouring had begun, a Censure fleet from Mars, so this was years later, a Censure fleet from Mars itself would come to Ziac Had. And by this time, the Thousand Sons had presumably long since departed to become either Black Shields or seek safety in the war, or maybe probably a bit of both, to be fair. So, I mean, that's speculation, but we know that the Thousand Sons weren't there by the time Mars arrived. So, after the devastation of the Horus Heresy, knowing that Ziac had at this point killed Space Wolves, Dark Angels, Sisters of Silence, Custodes, Titans that were loyalists at the time, all whilst harboring enemies of the state that were actually loyalist Thousand Sons, the Martian fleet would, and I put this in brackets, I put this in quotation marks in my notes, the Martian Censor fleet would reconquer Ziac Had without there being any record of an actual Titanic or Titan battle of any kind. Thus, it's relatively safe to assume that Ziac Had were sensibly re-welcomed into the fold without incident due to the Imperium's growing need for god engines for the ensuing hellscape to come. That was 30k going into the next era.
Oh, the scouring, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a complete shit shoot. I mean, it's very interesting though, because Mars is this all-powerful sort of thing. There's another point I'll mention in a minute when we get on to the next step, but Mars is this very sort of all-powerful thing, this very, what's a good word? Especially when it comes to tech, right? They sort of present themselves as omnipotent and omniscient. And you could kind of imagine that Martian Censor fleet rocking up to Ziac Had, and it's like, hey, we've got on our list here these war crimes. We've got so many fucking war crimes. It's like it's going down. It's like a fucking CVS receipt of war crimes.
The Ziac Had just turns around and says, but Crassus?
I wasn't going to mention that. That's true. Yes. Fun fact from Volume 1, the Imperial Armor Compendium. When the Martian Censor fleet got to Ziac Had, guess what was re-welcomed into the Imperium? The Crassus Armored Transport Tank.
Yeah.
So next time you look at the Crassus Armored Transport Tank, it's an old Forge World model. It doesn't really exist anymore outside of 3D printing and recasting, but they did make it for a number of years, and it was sold on Forge World. That specific tank is a STC from Ziac Had.
Yeah.
Such a weird, tiny little thing. It's such a beautiful little tank, though. It's like
It's not little. It's the size of a Baneblade.
No way.
It is the size of a Baneblade. It's bigger than the Gorgon assault transport.
Yeah, it's fuck huge.
The Gorgon is the size of a Malkador. The Crassus is the size of a Baneblade.
We'll put it on the screen now. This is a Crassus armored assault transport. How is it that... Oh, yeah, I suppose. Wait, so it's kind of like a mini Mastodon.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, it's essentially... It's just it's not that other Krieg vehicle, but then you just turn it around. It's quite goofy. I love it. It's such a goofy little vehicle. It also has a massive missile version that is just... It opens up and it has a mobile airbase in there.
Oh, I've just Googled size comparison of it. It's huge.
Yeah, it's massive.
It's way bigger than it looks in the pictures.
So if you already take Priest Dominus and Mars sent a Censure fleet, all it costs is 2 STCs, and you can have your war crimes wiped from the record.
That's it, yeah.
That's literally it, yeah. My client pleads whoopsie daisy. Here's 2 STCs. Please go away.
But this goes really nicely into the next point, because and this is the last. This is where we end our little tale. It's not known what happened specifically to Legio Ziac after this point, or not known exactly what happens.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is known that one of the Imperium's conditions for Ziac Had's loyal status was for them to abandon all of their heretical Iron Core technology. An order that we know they presumably, in secret, did not comply with, as in M41, ancient titans of Ziac were uncovered in a vault with their iron cores still very much intact. So they presumably kept doing it on the secret. Now, we don't really have many more details around that, apart from like that. But it's really interesting to know that their titans were not annihilated. They weren't destroyed. The Imperium didn't kill them. They still exist in M41, even if they're decommissioned. but the iron cores were never removed. So it's still a thing that technically exists in the setting. And maybe there could be some homebrewing space there, potentially. Maybe.
Yeah, especially as the Crassus, like those vehicles actually showed up during both the Battle War and the Siege of Vrax.
Well, yeah, the Crassus
They're
is still running around. Yeah.
So this forge world is still pumping out iron. So who knows? Maybe some epics are still around.
Tom,
It's really... Yeah.
Do we know where in the galaxy Zhao
Yes, we
was
do.
located?
Yes, we do. I wasn't going to put this, but I do have the source for this written down somewhere as well. This is actually I think it's in the 6th edition. Oh, let me get it up real quick. I have this written down, but I wrote it somewhere else. It is. It's in the 6th edition Imperial Knights Codex.
I have this.
You can go grab it. They are, I don't know, I don't have a page. I guess I do page 12. They are in the Segmentum Tempestus in the Zhao system.
Oh.
Okay, page 12.
They are right at the Galactic South.
Now, I have the limited edition version of the 6th edition Knights Codex.
Look at you. Fucking hell.
Segmentum Tempestus, you say?
So the Galactic South.
Zhao in just right next to the Veil region, the furthest south.
Yep, right at the bottom of the galaxy.
Tempestus.
Yeah, so it's well within. I tell you what, Richard, do you know what they're dealing with right now? They're dealing with a lot of Tyranids right now. It's like right in the path of the 4th Tyrannical War.
Didn't the Plague Wars also stretch down there as well?
Yep.
Oh,
It kind of explains, but this is it. The further you get away from the heresy and the closer you get to 40k, the more every single edge of the galaxy is a fucking hellscape.
I'm gonna be honest. I think the closer you get to Zal Arcad, you're gonna start hearing the Doom music playing louder and louder.
Yeah,
you don't want to get near them. I think everybody's gonna have a really. Mortarion probably came there and had a really bad time.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great, but it's just such a cool little thing. And this thing as well. Since I got into Titans much more when they started doing Legiones Imperialis.
Yeah.
I got into Titans so much more when that started because that was a practical way for me to own Titans and play with them. I was never interested in playing Titanicus. Didn't like the rules, didn't like how it's set up. Imperialis is much simpler for a smooth brain like me. And so I was happy to do that. I was happy to have some Space Marines running around as well. But when I got into Titans and Titan lore a few years ago, culminating with Imperialis, I realized that there's only like 6 or 7 Titan Legios that everyone talks about.
Yeah.
Like everyone likes the same 6 or 7 Titan Legios, even though there's like dozens. Now I'm not going to say they all have as cool and esoteric a lore as Dystobiacs. But even up to today, I'll go to people who like their Titans, who are, I'll speak to people who play Imperialis and play Titanicus, and I'll talk to them about Titans, and I'll be like, my favorite Titan Legio is Dystobiacs. I fucking love Dystobiacs. And still to today, I get more people than not saying, what the fuck is that? Who are you talking about? Yeah. And it's like they've got this awesome color scheme. We haven't actually talked about their color scheme. It's purple, white, and silver. Sometimes purple, white, and gold, but it's generally a purple, white, and silver. And I'll say to them as well, I'll say their other name, be like, are they know myself? And I'll say, oh yeah, they're sometimes called the Iron Vigil, and they'll be like, I've never heard of the Iron Vigil either. And so it's really sad that they just go under the radar so much because they're such a cool Legio that's had such their own story that's interacted with all these other big factions in a way where they're the winning underdogs, but still kind of not. I kind of like that they're not around in 40k. I kind of like that it's unknown what the hell's happened to them in 40k. Because all the best stuff from 30k is that. All the best stuff from 30k has gone missing in the meantime.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But it really makes me happy. And it's. I think what I wanted to do with this episode of the podcast was just to shine a light on this one thing that I really love. And I'm not a big fan of the Space Wolves, to be honest. And like I said, we've already spoken about the Dark Angels. This particular era of Dark Angels, I didn't like. So to have a faction that dunked on both of them, whilst also being the underdogs, it's just really cool. It's just really cool, and not necessarily being chaos either. And harbored loyalist Thousand Sense, because I remember when I got into, I remember the bit of lore that I was really into, and this was thanks to who's the YouTuber? He talks a lot. He's chronically on Twitter. Oculus Imperia, is that his channel name?
Yeah, Oculus Imperia.
I was fresh off his Prospero series. Oh, it was so good. Oh, and I was like fully Thousand Sun pilled at that point. And it was around that time I started learning about Dystobiacs. and it was just glorious. It was so wonderful, and it's so cool, and it's like it's crazy how such a cool faction has gone under the rug. But this is the thing: the big problem with 40k and 30k is that as the memes are to blame and the AI YouTubers, because we've got all this focus on factions and stories that are very punchy and memeable and very in your face. But there's so many smaller stories that no one talks about, so many smaller interactions that still have massive ramifications, or maybe very little ramifications, but are just very interesting closed-ended stories on the on their own. And I think that Zestobiax is such a beautiful example of a sort of a 40k, 30k side story done right. It's trickled down in information through about six or seven different random sources produced between 2006 and 2019, and you can just kind of pick up bits as you go. And it's crazy how well they all knit together to create this wonderful picture of a faction that deserves so much more love than it gets.
I think this is like my favorite part of 40k is just the super strange devices they make, the weird pieces of tech we actually just don't hear anything about. Like, we all have, like, of course, due to our shorts and stuff, we kind of know about Side Titans, but actually seeing them in action, understanding what they're worth, understanding what, like, you can see a Reaver Titan and see a Warlord Titan and be like, oh, the Reaver Titan stands no chance. Well, with the right technology and the right pilots, it makes all the difference. And I think, like, all those little changes in the lore, all those little additions in the lore that they've been adding over time, it's so good. It's so cool. There's those little pieces of tech that you just didn't even imagine they could make that. An Iron Core, who thought that could be in a Titan? Are there other Titans that have similar pieces of tech? Are there other Legios we don't know about that have maybe even no pilots at all? They're just lying to us. Like, it's so interesting. So good. This is where the true value of 40k like lies.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful. It's really, really great. And I think the other thing as well is stories like this, I think you kind of said this as well, but stories like this give us a glimpse into the workings of other things. So if we look at the story of Zestobiax, but forget about Zestobiax in its entirety, you get to see Mortis humbled. You get to see the Ordo Sinister highlighted, a show of power. You get to see the Dark Angels blasted. You get to see Thousand Sons loyalists on the run. You get to see Mars being uncharacteristically soft. Although that is conjecture. That last one's a little bit of conjecture, but I'm going to keep it because I'm a YouTuber.
In Data Assassins.
Yeah,
but
I'm a 40k YouTuber. I'm allowed to lie. So it's a really wonderful vehicle for giving people information on other things, in a way that's digestible and true to the setting. And I really like that. I really, really, really like that. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And hopefully we get more of it. Oh, there's probably more of this gone around, Maybe that's why no one's heard of Zestobiax or Ziac had, because it's spread across so many little books. Maybe I just need to take some more time to find someone talking about one thing. I got through the Black Shield books recently. The Black Shield, sorry, they weren't books, they were short audio novels about Endred Ha. Oh my god, I'm telling you, learning Endred, it's tiniest bits of information they give away outside of the actual plot of those stories to characterize what Black Shields during the Horus Heresy do and what their lives are like. And I'm kind of sat here wanting more. I'm not just wanting more of Endred Ha and Endred Ha stories, but I'm wanting more of the characterization of what it's like to be a piratical Black Shield. It's very interesting. It's very cool, and hopefully we can have more of this as time goes on and we get more Horus Heresy stories, because the mainline Horus Heresy is now over. As far as I'm concerned, it's prime time to give us the side stories now, to give us the little tidbits, the things that happened during X, happened during Y, or what happened afterwards, waiting for a big scouring series to start.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it will.
Give me 50 books on the scouring and my soul will be yours.
Yeah, I bet, honestly, I was sitting here and I'm bitching about the Dark Angels. I bet the Dark Angels during the scouring would be rad. I bet they'd be absolute savages. The Blood Angels during the scouring. Oh, would I read those? Holy crap, that'd be so cool.
God. An actual novelization of the Iron Cage. Have we had that yet?
Yeah, or like a proper description on how the Loyalists got Mars back afterwards. Like an actual full deep dive with the whole like Myriad engine that they had along with it. Give me all that. please.
I want to hear about one of the poor side characters who stumbles into the Noctis labyrinth by accident. Trying to hunt down some traitors, they run into the fucking pits of hell.
Yeah. Well, it's all sorts of things as well. You know, the Primarchs going missing is another one, because this is the thing as well. GW has made it very clear that I know a lot of the old guard don't like this. I don't like this. However, I'm a very accepting and adaptable person. So GW's made it very clear that they're prepared to throw away the mystery of the Primarchs. Okay, cool. I've accepted that. That's what's happening. All right. Well, if you're going to do that, if we're not going to have that mystery, if you're going to take that away from us, you better replace it with some good fucking stories. You know, if you're going to give us those Primarch stories of the Primarchs going missing and doing cool shit, make it cool. Really try to make it cool. Give us some good stories. You know, give us something that we can sink our teeth into to understand the characterization of Rogel Dawn and Leman Russ, and the Lion. Do we know why the Lion was asleep? Am I just missing something?
I don't think we ever
got so something like just little things like this, little tidbits. You know, give us good stories, because I know that there are authors at the Black Library right now who can write Primarchs very well. I know they exist. I'm sure there's someone out there. It's probably Aragon. Aragon's probably typing a comment right now telling me how stupid I am for supporting more stories with Primarchs in them. I can hear him typing angrily. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not sorry, actually. Piss off.
Well, it's not so much the Primarchs that I'm interested in. I want to hear about the Marines around them when their Primarchs go missing. We get a little bit of that with, say, the War in the Fang short book series, 2 books. And we see Bjorn the Full-Handed talking about how one day Leman Russ just left.
Yeah.
Classic absentee dad story.
He's going to come back. He's going to come back and he's going to have his Fenrisian milk and his Fenrisian cigarettes in M41, and all will be right with the world. Probably not. But you know, it's so much potential with these stories, and again, just come back to Zestobiacs. I know I'm repeating myself, but I'll say it one more time. It's a really great way. It's so unique to 40k as well, actually, how 40k being with the scale that it is, the scale it's become, how a faction that has such depth and information can be split across like breadcrumbs over so many different sources. And then it's really, I mean, I don't know about you, Zarek, because I know you do this a lot. I know you're a sucker for doing this, and now I am too. And that's trying to find those breadcrumbs, trying to follow them. Because it's all well and good, the Lexicanum being wishy-washy with its sources and getting them incorrect every now and then. But it's another thing as well to find those sources yourself, to go scouring through old PDFs of White Dwarf magazines and stuff and piecing it together yourself and coming across a story that no one talks about, you know?
So, Tom, I'm so glad you brought this up. 5th edition codices are the best for this. As much as people hate him, Matt Ward actually did an excellent job.
No, you can't say something nice about Matt Ward. No!
The codexes he wrote. If I can, I will not bother grabbing them, but there is an amazing short story that is kind of interwoven between the Necrons Codex and the Grey Knights Codex, which is all the Inquisition stuff. Yeah, look, everyone hated the Grey Knights Codex from 5th Ed for how powerful the Grey Knights were. Fair enough. But there's an amazing little thing. I'm getting the book now because I need to find her name. Hold on. Grey Knights. There we go. I need to find her name. It's a particular Inquisitor. If I keep... There she is. Hold on. Right, so Inquisitor Valyria. Unfortunately, she got killed off during the fall of Cadia. That's fun. Anyway, so she actually had a running rivalry with Trazyn. Because in the Necrons Codex, there's a story essentially about an Inquisitor who takes a bunch of her forces underneath the surface of Solemnes into Trazyn's library, finds the exhibits, and reports that there was this Necron that she kept killing, but he kept coming back in different bodies. And her forces were forced to retreat, and she barely made it out after losing several regiments of guardsmen. Then Trazyn sends her a message telling her how thankful he was for the wonderful replacement of Catachan guardsmen that he needed for one of his new exhibits.
Oh, that's fucking funny.
And
classic Trazyn shenanigans.
Along with that, he sends her a Hyperstone crypt maze, which is essentially a trap that when she finishes reading the thing, it's supposed to spring on her.
Yeah.
But when you cross over to her datasheet in the Grey Knights Codex, she has that Hyperstone maze as a piece of war gear, implying that she escaped from it and now can use it to capture her enemies. And there's written a response, I believe, somewhere. Basically her saying, yes, thank you for the thoughtful gift. I'm sure we'll see each other again.
Oh, sorry, completely off topic. I'm so sorry. I have to mention this now or I'll forget. You've got an image in our little references tab that I'm sure it shows Zhao Arcad on the map. This is great. They've done an Istvan. They've pulled an Istvan where it's got a different spelling. Because every other source for Zhao Arcad has it spelt with an H after the K. This has it spelt with a second K.
Are you telling me this is why I've been typing Isfan with double A the entire time?
No, it's fine. It's fine. Both of them are acceptable because there's canonical examples of both. It's like the same way that, I don't know, I'll think of something. But it's like, this is the thing, it's like if you do a short and you mention Istvan and you spell it a certain way, it doesn't matter which way you spell it, you'll always have people telling you you've got it wrong and it's spelt the other way.
True. Yep.
It's the same thing here. There's two ways of spelling Zhao Arcad. But this would be pronounced Zhao Arcad rather than Arcad. So there's that H noise that's just kind of in there with the other one. But in any event, it's the same thing. Right, ladies and gentlemen, shall we move on to our patron questions?
Yes, sir.
Let's go.
Hi there. Thanks for watching this episode of the Astartes Anonymous podcast. We hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about Legio Ziac. If you're enjoying the content and want to help out, please consider just taking a brief look at our Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. So, patron questions. Let's have a look. What do we have this week? I have no idea what questions were asked on the last two episodes that I missed.
I can inform.
Okay, so I've got a very recent one. From Zach. He says, what would you consider to be a theme song for your homebrew? Did you guys do that one last week?
We did not.
Oh, that kind of sucks because you don't really have a homebrew that you're working on at the moment, do you, Alex?
No, I've had my Eagle Warriors for 10 years, and they have their own wiki page, and that's the farthest I'll ever go, Tom.
Okay, well, let's bin this one off till we do another homebrew-centric episode, because we will have more homebrew-centric episodes, and that'd be a great one for that. So, Zach, we'll hold off on that one. We'll come back to it when we've got an actual episode for it. Let's have another look. Did you guys do the what technology from 40k would you want to be real? You did do that one, okay. Did you do, if you could swap two characters of position in the setting, who would it be?
I don't think we did.
That's good. I can see why, because I don't know what that means. Jakul, I don't know what that means, buddy. It's not worded very well.
Wait, Tom, do you want to send out a quick ping to the Patrons?
Do we just ask them live? Ask them live right now.
Give us some questions and just answer them.
I'll do it in the ping the patrons. Sure, we'll do it right now. We'll do it for the ones that are online, so I'll just hear them.
Yeah. By the way, patrons, if you sign up, this is what you pay money for. You pay money to be called on to answer the teacher's question.
I've just put it in all caps. I've just pinged them all. I've put it in all caps. We're gonna quickfire these because now you've done it like this. We're gonna have to answer a few of them. So we're gonna have to quickfire our answers.
Oh no.
It's just how it is. We've got one typing already. All right, here we go. What Warhammer purchase do you regret the most? Very, very easy, Hive Tyrant. Very easy. I regret buying. Oh, what was it I bought for? That was it. When we went to Warhammer World last, I bought everyone a Primarch each. I regret doing that. That was a lot of money, and nobody's even started work on them yet. And that was months ago. No one's even started on them. Honestly, I regret my friends more than the purchase. Honestly, right? You guys.
I got the plastic models you got me.
Right, what's your most regrettable purchase? Come on, quick.
I bought Magnus the Red and then sold him on like a few months later.
All right, fair enough.
The plastic one.
I bought the entire Leviathan box set only to sell 95% of the models, and I kept one for my Blood Ravens army. That's it. I thought I was going to do Tyranids. I didn't.
Excellent. Chef asks a really stupid question. Chef, why are you like this? If you were a smart cookie, what kind of cookie would you be? I'd be a smart cookie.
Oatmeal raisin.
Oh my god.
Double chocolate caramel.
Actually, no, that's right. Macadamia nut. Okay, cool. Oxy asks, how much to punch Croc in the stomach? I will give you money to let me punch Croc in the stomach. Right, next question. Rion is typing. Come on, Rion. Let's go. Come on. We've got to quick fire these. We can do another couple if they come through quick enough.
For punching Croc, I'd do it for a bag of bases.
A bag of what?
Probably if you ask me nicely.
Oh, and so Rion asks how much to punch Oxy in the stomach. Oxy just asked the last question. I'm terribly sorry, Rion. I would not be able to accept any money to punch Oxy in the stomach because Oxy has paid to keep my lights on for a very long time now. So I'm sorry, it can't happen. Nope. Sorry, Chef, you've already asked one question. I'm not answering a second one. Moots asks, Moots, you're not a patron. All right, fuck it. Moots says, if your hands are made of cheese, what kind of cheese would they be? My hands. Well, I know ours would be made of Parmesan since they drip flakes 24/7 anyway.
I'm an old Amsterdammer because I'm Dutch.
I mean, I like vintage cheese, so I guess I'd eat my own hands. I guess it's a bit weird. Alice is a much better one. Alice actually has a really good question, and you'll love this one, Zarek. Alice asks. Alice isn't even a patron either. We just got the extended team asking questions now. Alice asks, what rule/ability do you miss on the tabletop? Can be from any edition.
Oh my god!
That's such a good one. I know. It's so good.
Episode topic.
Come on, you got time. You got to quick fire. I'm sorry. You got to go. You got to go now.
Bring back hull points. I want a one-shot on Land Raider.
Blast templates, honestly. I missed the blast
templates.
They're so fun.
Yeah.
They're so fun.
They are.
The fun bit is exclusively why my friends
Having
and I play Necromunda.
Having an argument. Yeah, having an argument with your opponent about if it clips or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. No, I love them. They were great.
For me, I don't know. I'll come back to you on that one another day. So next question, I think we can get one or two more. Oh, here we go. Oxy's asked a second one. Oh, I like you, Oxy, so you get a second one. So between Vashdor and Be'lakor, who would you rather be turned into a chaos god? And what would you like their respective demons/chaos marines to look like? Well, the answer to that is obviously Vashdor, because Be'lakor is just kind of a conglomeration of chaos undivided. He doesn't really fill a niche that various Primarchs don't already fill. Vashdor is this kind of pseudo-mechanical thing, would be very cool. We kind of already got that already. I just wish we had more models, like Dark Mechanicum style models, to really represent that, personally.
I want a god of fear. Why don't we have a god of fear? Why is that not a god?
God of fear, that's super specific. Wrong answer. The right answer was the Great Horned Rat. Moving on. So, next question is last. Should we do one or two more? I don't see anyone typing anymore.
Keep going.
Oh no, I do.
Keep going.
Oh god, Barbin's typing. I'm terrified. Purple asks, what would you wish from Games Workshop? New mini, show, or game? I'm assuming Purple is asking what new mini or show or game. So, for me, for minis, give me. Do you know how they've done Mark III and Mark VI Marines for the Horus Heresy?
Mm-hmm.
Give me Mark II. Give me Mark II Marines for the Horus Heresy, please. Thank you.
I thought you were going to say Mark VII.
No,
I would kind of want Mark VII, right?
No, Mark VII's coming anyway. Mark VII's on the way anyway. Mark II, don't know.
I want, in terms of games, I want an expansion for Horus Heresy that goes into the Bedab War, so you can play out the Bedab War.
Yeah. Actually, give me some sodden Horus Heresy themed kill team. Actually, really a kill team, but for Space Marines, all the Space Marine customization. I'd love that. That would slap.
Not kill team, Necromunda for 30.
Get out. Go away.
I have one more super quick game, and that is just take Frostpunk, make it Hive City Simulator, please. I want to kill 96,000 people with the wrong mistake, please.
All right, we've got the last three questions. Last three questions now. We'll get through them quickly. So if anyone types beyond this point, I'm so sorry if you type in beyond this point as I'm saying this live. I'm not reading them. Oxy, I see you typing right now. I don't know what you're about to ask me, but you're going to have to wait till next week. So, he says, Tom, why did you choose to be British? Thanks. Thanks, Oxy. real great. So, Oxy also asks, what limited time / no longer production model do you miss the most or not regretting when you could? I wish I was into 40k enough, but because I got into 40k when I was like 10 and then just abandoned the hobby for years and years and years and years and years. I wish I was into 40k when Forge World was selling the various armor upgrades. There's an old rule that I'd love to come back. Extra armor on vehicles. Various armor upgrades for tanks. I love seeing Predators with the extra armor upgrade on them. They look so cool.
Dark Eldar were my first army. I wish I'd actually bought some of the resin. That's not the resin, but like the Finecast models. As shit as Finecast is, I really miss those old sculpts. I think they're infinitely better than the new ones.
Yeah, that's fair.
I lost my old power armored Marnius Kalgar, the metal one with the one fist race looking absolutely goofy. I want that model back. I want that model back so badly.
Excellent. Right, next one is from Rion again, and Rion asks, what chapter master would you take out on a romantic candlelit dinner? So the answer to that is very easy. It's Dante, because Dante would suggest a very nice vintage of wine. And would probably eat real food as opposed to nutrient paste, I suspect.
I would like to go on dinner with Marnius Calgar. Please tell me everything about Ultramar. Speak to me your funny Latin language.
Cardin Stronos, I won't be taking any questions.
Oh wow. There's a vibrate button.
I won't be taking any questions.
Okay, last patron.
Just let it be known that in some of the books, some Iron Hands have the ability to rotate 360 degrees on their waist. No more questions.
I'm absolutely terrified. But that being said, last question is from Barbun. Barbun posted this one before the embargo, and Barbun asks, if y'all had all ingredients present, what is your god tier sandwich? So, Barbun, unfortunately, you've asked the wrong man, because this is now going to be an hour-long cooking show.
Oh no. I'm
going to recluse myself from answering this, because I will take at least 15 minutes to talk about my answer to this question. So I'm just going to let you guys answer this.
I am a simple mayonnaise, a little bit of lettuce, an egg, cheese, ham, mayonnaise.
Honestly,
slop it up.
I've seen your lunches before. You're actually an animal. You're so Eastern European with your food, and I don't mean like the fun kind of like special kind of cooking that kind of great Turkish cuisine that you can get. I mean like eating a raw onion next to a raw pepper with maybe some mayo that you can dip your raw onion in and calling that lunch.
Yeah, no, I am.
You eat like a medieval peasant.
I am a raw ingredients enjoyer.
Raw ingredients.
All right, Tom. You said Turkish, and immediately it completely changed my answer. I want a chicken shawarma sandwich.
Oh, that sounds nice.
With mustard and maybe some like garlic mayo and some lettuce on top. And like a crusty baguette bun as well, just to pull it together.
Dab me the fuck up.
That's actually a really, really, really great answer. I'm not going to answer mine. Flatbread. I'm not going to answer mine because I'm going to end up, we're going to be in here for another 15 minutes. So thank you all very, very much for watching. We really enjoyed doing this funny little episode. If you're enjoying like little random lore tidbits that people don't really know about and you want more like this, just let us know. Drop a message. Have a look at the Patreon. Please have a look at the Patreon. It keeps the lights on and it keeps everyone happy. And go subscribe or unsubscribe from the Gaming Storyteller. It's entirely your call. I can't stop you. It's entirely up to you. You can subscribe to him. You can unsubscribe to him. You can unsubscribe to us. It's your prerogative. Whatever you think.
Hit that like button and leave a comment below.
Or do that. Or I'll put Zarek's thing in the link below as well. Go subscribe to that. There's nothing on it except the video of someone pulling a book off a shelf.
Watch that 5-second video. I want to get that to 10,000 views so I can torment all of my friends who ever had the aspiration of becoming a YouTuber.
Excellent. Truly a work of art. What an absolute wonderful time to be alive. Is there anything else we need to mention, or can we bounce?
Titan go to big warhorn go beep.
Yeah. Fuck Legio Mortis.
Fuck Legio Mortis.
Fuck kill team, don't at me!
No. Wrong. Bad opinion. Actually terrible. I'm going to get in touch with Crackduck, who is a kill team enthusiast, and we are going to now slander you on YouTube. This is the way it is.
They're all inferior. The best kill team was in 4th edition or the 2018 release.
You need help.